Mia had always been tough, but lately even her inner strength was running low. At 19, she was already facing life head-on while carrying her son Ben in her arms. Now that Ben was 6, his needs and the bills kept mounting. Jobless and with little hope, Mia spent many nights fighting back tears, searching desperately for a glimmer of hope in unlikely places. That all changed one day when she found a crumpled piece of paper on her kitchen table, right next to some old bread. A neighbor had dropped it off earlier. With trembling hands, Mia scanned the note repeatedly, as if it were a winning lottery ticket, looking for a private caregiver for upscale residents. High pay, strict confidentiality, and full commitment required. Her heart skipped a beat. What exactly did strict mean? Could someone with her simple, hard-lived life really have a shot? But that impressive salary promised a better school for Ben, a decent home with room for him to run around, and nights when she wouldn't have to choose between paying the electricity bill and buying groceries. Taking a deep breath, Mia decided this might be the turning point she needed, or perhaps the start of a whole new set of challenges. The very next morning, Mia arrived at the grand estate. The massive iron gate swung open to reveal a garden so perfect it almost felt unreal. A friendly housekeeper named Nina greeted her at the door with a warm smile. "Welcome. I'll take you to Mr. Clayton," she said, adding, "Just so you know, he's very exacting and straightforward. All he wants is honesty." Mia nodded, her hands shaking as she followed Nina through the quiet corridors. When Nina finally opened a door to an office, Mia met Mr. Clayton for the first time. He sat in a wheelchair, impeccably dressed in a suit, but it was his cold, piercing eyes that caught her attention. "Are you the applicant?" he asked bluntly. "Yes, sir," Mia replied, trying to sound as confident as she could. He tilted his head slightly. "Why do you want this job?" he inquired. Mia took a steadying breath. "I'm a single mom. I need to secure a better future for my son, and I'm ready to do whatever it takes." Mr. Clayton said nothing for a long, heavy moment. Then, almost dismissively, he motioned with his hand, "Start tomorrow. Don't let me down." That night, as Mia tucked Ben into bed, a mix of relief and anxiety churned inside her. This job could change everything. But something about Mr. Clayton's piercing look made her suspect there was more to the mansion than met the eye. The following day, Mia returned for her first shift. Nina welcomed her again, now with a less formal tone, but the same clear efficiency. "Follow me. I'll explain your duties as we go," Nina said as they strolled through the vast, hushed hallways. Mr. Clayton sticks to a very tight schedule. Your main job is to help him bathe and get dressed. He likes things done quickly and without fuss. And one more thing, he hates small talk, so keep it strictly professional. Mia swallowed hard. Nina's reassuring tone couldn't completely erase the echo of Mr. Clayton's earlier command, "Don't disappoint me." Inside the master bathroom, Mia took note of all the specialized equipment set up for Mr. Clayton. Side rails, a custom shower bench, and even a table lined with fancy toiletries. Before she could process it all, the door swung open and Mr. Clayton rolled in, maneuvering his wheelchair with precision. "Let's get started." "I don't have all day," he said curtly, barely glancing her way. Mia nodded quickly, "Yes, sir," and began adjusting the bench to help him transfer from his wheelchair. Despite her focus, she couldn't help but notice the scars on his hands as he gripped the rails tightly. Though he never asked for help, his body told another story. "Don't treat me like I'm helpless," Mr. Clayton suddenly snapped, shattering the quiet. "I'm not treating you that way," Mia quickly replied in a calm tone. "I just want to make sure you're safe." Mr. Clayton scoffed, and the rest of the bath proceeded in an awkward silence, punctuated only by the sound of running water. As Mia lathered soap on his shoulders, she saw a deep, jagged scar along his back. She hesitated, itching to ask, but decided to hold off for now. After helping Mr. Clayton get dressed, Mia started cleaning up the bathroom. She noticed him watching her from the corner, as if he was trying to figure her out. "You seem to be handling things well," he remarked, his tone sounding more like he was testing her rather than offering praise. "I've been through tougher situations," she replied honestly, without giving away too much. Without another word, He turned his wheelchair and left the room. Mia's day was a mix of following Nina's instructions and handling brief encounters with Mr. Clayton. Although he wasn't outright rude, his demeanor was clear. He was always in charge. Yet, small details contradicted his cold exterior, like the way he clutched his wheelchair's armrests when someone got too close, or how he quickly looked away when conversations touched on personal matters. At lunch, Mia met Monica for the first time. Monica stepped into the dining room with a graceful, almost superior air, dressed in an expensive outfit, wearing a signature perfume, and with a gaze that could chill. Monica made it clear she wasn't easily impressed. "So, you the new caregiver?" Monica said with a half-smile. "Yes, I'm Mia," she answered coolly. Monica didn't reply immediately. She chuckled shortly before turning to Mr. Clayton. "I hope you don't give her too much trouble. She seems a bit fragile." Mr. Clayton didn't react, but Mia noticed his jaw tighten ever so slightly. The tension in the room was almost palpable. Monica clearly enjoyed prodding, and Mia realized she'd have to be extra careful around her. Later, while tidying up the rooms, Ben called out from a neighbor's phone. His bright, cheerful voice was a welcome distraction. "Mom, have you seen the garden? Isn't it amazing?" he asked excitedly. "It's beautiful, sweetheart. I'd love to take you there one day," Mia replied. "What about the guy in the wheelchair? Does he treat you nicely?" Ben's innocent question made Mia pause. "He's different, but I'm learning to manage," she answered. After the call, a pang of longing hit her. She missed Ben terribly. The job was demanding, but she reminded herself it was all for him. Later, while organizing the kitchen, Nina brought Mia a package. "This came for you," Nina said. Mia opened it to find an anonymous note with a simple yet chilling message: "Watch your step." A shiver ran down her spine. Instantly, she thought of Monica, but she couldn't make any accusations without proof. She showed the note to Nina, whose expression grew serious. "That's odd. I'll look into it, but be careful, Mia. There are plenty of people here who don't welcome change." By the end of the day, Mia was tired but determined. As she wrapped up her last task, she spotted Mr. Clayton sitting alone in the library, staring at an open book that he wasn't really reading. "Do you need anything, sir?" she asked softly. He looked up, visibly more exhausted than before. "You always ask, don't you? Doesn't it ever get tiring, all this effort to help?" he remarked. "It's my job," Mia replied, though her tone betrayed a hint of genuine care. Mr. Clayton observed her for a moment before adding, "Maybe you're not like the others." For the first time, Mia sensed a glimmer of openness in him, a hint that maybe, just maybe, she could make a difference. The next morning dawned gray and rainy over the mansion's gardens. Determined, Mia set aside the mystery of the note and focused on her work. Mr. Clayton was quieter than usual that morning, which didn't surprise her. He always seemed to live behind high, unyielding walls, both physical and emotional. As Mia prepared the bathroom for his morning routine, she heard the sound of wheels approaching. He rolled in silently, his usual stern expression in place. "Good morning, sir," Mia said, trying to lighten the mood. Mr. Clayton didn't speak, but motioned for her to begin. The routine was just as it had always been, until Mia noticed something different. During the bath, Mr. Clayton avoided meeting her eyes, and his shoulders seemed less tense. For a moment, it looked like he was more relaxed, letting her work without the usual interruptions or sharp comments. "Sir, the weather is perfect today for a walk in the garden. Maybe we could—" she began, only to be cut off. "No," he replied curtly, his voice as cold as the wind outside. Mia sighed, but didn't push further. Still, there was something new in him, something only someone who knew him well could pick up on. Later, while organizing his bedroom closet, Mia discovered an old, dusty photo album. Curiosity got the better of her, and she flipped through pictures of Mr. Clayton before his accident, smiling, surrounded by friends and family. One photo, in which he was embracing a woman with bright, joyful eyes, caught her attention. Before she could return the album to its place, Mr. Clayton appeared at the door. "Do you always snoop through other people's things?" he asked. Mia started, but he raised a hand. "It doesn't matter. You want to know what really happened, don't you? Everyone does. They see me and wonder about the mystery behind my life. Mia hesitated. She hadn't meant to invade his privacy, but his tone made her feel as if she'd crossed a line. If you don't want to talk about it, that's fine. You don't owe me an explanation, she said calmly. After a long pause, he murmured, that photo was taken before the accident, before everything fell apart, and then turned to leave, leaving Mia with even more questions. At lunchtime, Ben called again. His bright voice was the highlight of Mia's day. Mom, have you seen the garden? Is it as cool as you say? He asked cheerfully. It's amazing, honey. One day, we'll go there together, Mia replied. And what about the man in the chair? Does he treat you well? Ben inquired innocently. Mia thought for a moment before answering, he's different, but I'm learning how to handle him. After hanging up, Mia felt a wave of longing for her son. The work was grueling, and the distance was hard to bear. Later, while tidying the kitchen, Nina appeared with a small package. This just arrived for you, Mia, Nina announced. When Mia opened it, she found another anonymous note, this one even more menacing. Watch your step. A chill ran through her. Immediately, Monica came to mind, but Mia couldn't point fingers without solid proof. She showed the note to Nina, who looked visibly troubled. That's odd. I'll see what I can find out, but be careful, Nina warned. By the end of the day, Mia was exhausted yet determined. During her final rounds, she found Mr. Clayton alone in the library, staring blankly at an open book. Do you need anything, sir? She asked softly. You always ask, don't you? Does it ever get tiring? Always trying to help, he said with a weary sigh. It's my job, Mia replied, though her sincerity betrayed her. Mr. Clayton studied her for a moment before saying, maybe you're not like the others. For the first time, Mia felt that maybe she could break through his icy exterior and truly help him. The following morning, an envelope lay on the kitchen counter. A note, this time with a direct message. Leave while you still can. The chilling words made Mia's blood run cold. She showed it to Nina, who looked deeply concerned. This has gone too far. I'm going to mention it to Mr. Clayton, Nina said. No, I don't want to stir up trouble, Mia replied firmly. Whoever is behind this won't scare me. I'm here for my son, and I'm not giving up. Nina nodded, though her worry was clear. Later that day, Mia found Mr. Clayton alone in the garden, gazing out at the horizon. Thank you for what you did yesterday, he said softly without meeting her eyes. For what? Mia asked, puzzled. For bringing your son to me. It reminded me of something I had forgotten, he murmured. Mia smiled gently. And what might that be? Finally, he looked at her and said that there's still beauty, even when everything seems lost. Then, with a hint of mischief, he added, let's play a little game. In the comments, type pizza. Only those who make it this far will know what I mean. The next day, Mia entered the kitchen early, finding Nina already making coffee. Despite Nina's calm, Mia couldn't shake the heavy feeling in the mansion. The previous note still haunted her, but there was work to be done. Good morning, Mia, Nina greeted, handing her a mug. Morning, Mia replied, sipping the hot coffee. Nina watched her for a moment before asking, You seem tense. Is everything okay? It's nothing, just some worries of my own, Mia answered, not wanting to reveal too much. Nina didn't press further, but Mia knew she had noticed. Mia spent the morning tidying Mr. Clayton's room, his silence more pronounced than usual. As she straightened his bed, he observed her quietly before finally speaking. Did you get another note? His tone was direct and unexpected. Mia froze for a second before replying. How did you know? Nina mentioned it to me. I thought you'd tell me, he said. Mia sighed, feeling the weight of his scrutiny. I didn't think it was important. It's just someone trying to scare me. Mr. Clayton tilted his head. Do you really think you can ignore this? He asked. I don't want to cause any trouble, Mia replied firmly. Mr. Clayton gave a soft chuckle. Trouble already exists in this house, Mia, and you're not the one who should be burdened by it. At lunch, Monica entered the dining room with deliberate steps, carrying an envelope. She glanced at Mia briefly before sitting down next to Mr. Clayton and handing him the document with a strained smile. I brought some papers for you to sign, just a few changes to the property management, Monica explained. Mr. Clayton looked at the envelope without taking it immediately. It's important, Monica insisted, her voice tinged with anxiety. Mia noticed Monica's discomfort. Something about the exchange felt off. Eventually, Mr. Clayton took the envelope but didn't open it, setting it aside and fixing Monica with a steady look. "We'll discuss this later. For now, let's have lunch," he said. Monica managed a smile, though it was clear she wasn't happy. Later that afternoon, as Mia prepared Mr. Clayton's tea, Ben called again. His joyful voice was a much-needed break from attention. "Mommy, I drew a picture of you and the man in the chair," Ben exclaimed. "Really? I can't wait to see it when I get home," Mia replied, smiling. "Are you happy at work?" Ben asked innocently. Mia hesitated. "I'm doing okay, sweetheart. I'm doing this for us." After the call, Mia felt a lump in her throat. Ben was her rock, but she knew she had to shield him from the heaviness of her day. In the early afternoon, Mia found Mr. Clayton in the library, examining the envelope that Monica had given him earlier. He seemed more lost in thought than focused on the documents. "She's always trying to control everything," he muttered, more to himself than to Mia. "What do you mean?" Mia asked softly. "Before my accident, I thought I understood people, who was loyal and who was only here for their own gain. But now," he trailed off. "Now, I see things more clearly," Mia said gently. "It wasn't the accident that broke me, Mia. It was the people around me." Mia could see the deep hurt behind his words, and it seemed like he was slowly starting to trust her. While tidying the living room later, Mia heard hurried footsteps in the hallway. Monica stormed in abruptly, eyes fixed on Mia. "You have something that belongs to me," Monica said, her tone low and threatening. "I'm not sure what you're talking about," Mia replied, trying to keep her cool. "Don't act innocent," Monica snapped. "If you think you can carve out a space for yourself here, you're mistaken. People like you don't belong in this world." Mia's heart pounded, but she remained composed. "I'm just here to work, nothing more. I don't want any trouble." Monica stepped closer. "Stay away from Mr. Clayton. And one more thing, the next note you get might not be so friendly." A chill ran through Mia, but she held herself steady as Monica turned and left, leaving only the echo of her threat behind. That evening, Mia decided she couldn't keep everything bottled up. She found Mr. Clayton in the garden, where he sat quietly, lost in thought. "I need to talk to you," she said, approaching him. He looked at her, his expression serious. "What is it?" he asked. Mia hesitated before recounting every detail. The threatening notes, Monica's hostile behavior, and the tense confrontation in the living room. Mr. Clayton listened in silence, his face growing harder with each word. When she finished, he said, "Monica has always been skilled at manipulating people, but with me, that ends now." "What are you going to do?" Mia asked, worried. "I'll handle my way. But know this, Mia. While you're here, you're under my protection. Don't let Monica bully you." His tone left no room for argument. Later that evening, as Mia prepared Mr. Clayton's bath equipment, she noticed he was unusually quiet. Not his typical icy silence, but more pensive. "Are you okay, sir?" she asked gently as she adjusted the shower bench. Mr. Clayton narrowed his eyes slightly. "You always ask, don't you? It's just part of the job," he replied with a small, genuine smile. Then, unexpectedly, he asked, "Have you ever believed you could do something impossible?" The question caught Mia off guard. After a moment's thought, she answered, "Yes, many times, and sometimes I've actually succeeded." Mr. Clayton nodded slowly, as if taking in her words. "Maybe I should try too," he murmured. That morning's bath felt different. Mr. Clayton seemed more cooperative, allowing Mia to help him without his usual interruptions. When she finished, he looked at her in a way that made her pause. "Do you think I could ever stand up on my own?" he asked, vulnerability in his voice. "I believe you can do anything if you're willing to try," Mia said sincerely. Mr. Clayton didn't reply immediately. Instead, he kept his gaze on her for a few long seconds before turning back to his wheelchair. Soon after, Mr. Clayton invited Mia to join him in the physical therapy room, a space he rarely used. The room was outfitted with parallel bars, weights, and various rehab tools. "I want to try something today," he said as he parked his wheelchair near the bars. Surprised but determined, Mia moved closer to help. Are you sure, sir? I don't want you to get hurt, she cautioned. I'm already hurt enough, he replied. Slowly, he positioned his hands on the bars. His arms trembled with the effort, and Mia stepped in to support him lightly. Every movement was a struggle, but Mr. Clayton persisted. After several intense moments, he managed to lift his torso slightly. A brief but powerful victory. I felt it, he gasped. Mia beamed. That's amazing, sir. This is just the beginning. Mr. Clayton's face, lined with strain, also showed a glimmer of hope. Mia helped him back into his wheelchair, and for a moment, they shared a quiet triumph. Before long, Monica reappeared in the room, clearly irritated. What's going on here? She demanded. Crossing her arms, she glared at them. Mr. Clayton's expression hardened. I'm trying to reclaim what's mine. Something you never thought possible, he retorted. Monica scoffed and then turned her attention to Mia. Is this your idea? Do you really think you can save the day? She sneered. This is Mr. Clayton's plan, and he's making progress, Mia replied calmly. Monica laughed bitterly. Progress? He can barely stand on his own. This isn't progress, it's delusion. Mr. Clayton cut in before Mia could respond. Enough, Mo. Nika, I'm tired of your constant negativity. I don't need your help. I need support. Monica was silent for a moment, then glared at Mia. You're just making things worse, she hissed before storming out. That evening, while Mia was preparing lunch, Ben called once more. His cheerful voice provided a welcome break from the day's tensions. Mommy, I drew a picture of a strong man. It's you and a man in the chair together, Ben said proudly. Mia laughed. Really? I can't wait to see it when I get home. Are you having fun at work? He asked sweetly. Yes, honey. I'm doing this for us, she replied. But after the call, Mia felt tears well up in her eyes. Ben was her rock, and every day apart from him weighed heavily on her heart. Later that afternoon, Mia spotted Mr. Clayton in the garden again. He was more relaxed, gazing thoughtfully at the horizon. Thank you for what you did today, he said quietly, not looking directly at her. It was you who made the difference, Mia replied softly. Mr. Clayton chuckled lightly. You have a rare gift, Mia. You make people believe in themselves, even when they've lost hope. That's the least I can do, he said, sitting down beside her. After a moment of silence, he asked, Have you ever thought that maybe you're here for a bigger reason than just work? Mia frowned, unsure what he meant. Maybe you're meant for something more, he continued softly. Mia couldn't find the words to respond immediately. There was something profound in his tone that hinted at deeper meanings beyond employment. As the day drew to a close, Mia finished her tasks and Nina approached her. I heard what happened in the therapy room. Did Mr. Clayton really try to stand? Nina asked, visibly surprised. Yes, even if it was just for a moment, Mia replied with a small smile. Nina shook her head in disbelief. He's never done that before. I think you're really making a difference, Mia. Mia smiled back, though she knew she was only beginning to grasp the impact she had on him and on the mansion as a whole. The next morning, dark clouds hung over the estate, reflecting the tension brewing inside. Mia knew Monica wouldn't let yesterday's confrontation go unnoticed, but she remained determined. Every small victory by Mr. Clayton gave her hope. While preparing breakfast, Nina hurried into the kitchen with an envelope, looking worried. Another note, Nina said, handing it over. Mia opened it to read the brief, chilling message. Leave before it's too late. Nina shook her head. This is getting dangerous, Mia. You need to tell Mr. Clayton. Though Mia hesitated, she knew Nina was right. It was time to address the issue head-on. Later that morning, Mia found Mr. Clayton in his office, a laptop open and papers spread out before him. He motioned for her to sit. I got a call from my lawyers, he began. Apparently, Monica tried to transfer a large sum of money to an offshore account. They stopped the transaction, but it proves she'll do anything to get what she wants. Mia frowned. So what are you going to do now? He asked, closing the laptop with determination. Today, I'm going to confront her with the evidence and demand that she stay out of my affairs. And if she refuses, well, then I'll take legal action. He added quietly, but I prefer to handle this without making a scandal. The confrontation happened in the living room. Mr. Clayton summoned Monica for an urgent discussion. while Mia stayed back in the kitchen, listening to the tense exchange through the walls. "Why are you doing this?" Mr. Clayton demanded in a firm, controlled tone. Monica's reply was laced with feigned innocence. "I'm only trying to help," she said. Mr. Clayton laid the documents on the table. "You know exactly what you're doing. Embezzling funds, manipulating my business. I won't stand for it." Monica laughed nervously. "Do you really think you have proof?" she challenged. "I have all the evidence I need," Mr. Clayton shot back, pointing to the documents. A heavy silence fell until Monica finally spat. "You're accusing me of betrayal after everything I've done for you." Mr. Clayton's voice was cold. "That ends now." Suddenly, the door burst open as Monica stormed out, her glare freezing in Mia's memory. Shortly after, Mr. Clayton appeared, visibly shaken. "She's leaving," he said softly. "Not exactly by choice, but the lawyers will handle the rest," he added. Mia felt a brief relief, though she knew the battle wasn't over yet. That afternoon, while assisting Mr. Clayton with his physical therapy, Mia noticed a renewed focus in him. "You seem more determined today," she remarked as she adjusted his equipment. "That's because I'm back in control," he said, lifting himself onto the parallel bars. His arms trembled with effort, but with Mia's steady encouragement, he managed to hold himself up longer than ever before. "That's incredible, sir," Mia cheered. Mr. Clayton looked at her, sweat on his forehead, and replied, "I couldn't have done it without you, Mia." "Thank you." Her heart swelled, but she stayed humble. "I'm just here to help." Later, while Mia was sorting through books in the library, Ben called again. His cheerful voice cut through the chaos of the day. "Mom, when can I come visit?" "I want to see the man in the chair," he said excitedly. "Soon, sweetheart. I promise we'll plan it," Mia replied, laughing. Ben then asked, "Is he walking yet?" Mia smiled. "He's making progress. He's getting stronger." After the call, Mia paused, thinking about Ben's pure, simple faith, which reminded her that even Mr. Clayton was starting to rediscover hope. At the end of the day, Mr. Clayton invited Mia to join him in the garden. The sky was painted with soft oranges and pinks, creating a peaceful atmosphere. "Today was important," he said, gazing at the horizon. "You handled everything remarkably well," Mia complimented. Mr. Clayton's look softened as he said, "Mia, you're a huge part of this journey. I don't think I could have come this far without you." His words warmed her heart, and before she could reply, he continued hesitantly, "I feel like I'm changing, and I think it's because of you." Surprised, Mia could only manage, "I'd never give up on you, Mr. Clayton." He smiled shyly. "Thank you for not giving up on me." In the days that followed, big changes swept through the mansion. Monica's presence faded abruptly, leaving behind only bitterness that Mr. Clayton was determined to overcome. Without her constant interference, the house felt lighter. His physical therapy sessions became daily, and he pushed himself harder than ever. Mia was by his side every step, encouraging him. One bright afternoon, something amazing happened. During a session, Mr. Clayton took his first independent step. It was brief, just a few seconds, but it brought tears to Mia's eyes. "You did it," she exclaimed. Mr. Clayton, breathless yet glowing, replied, "We did it together. This victory is as much yours as it is mine." He looked deeply at her, gratitude and a hint of something more in his eyes. That night, as Mia prepared for bed, Ben called again. His cheerful voice filled her tired heart. "Mommy, I drew another picture. It's of you, me, and the man in the chair at a park," he said excitedly. Mia laughed, imagining the sweet drawing. "I can't wait to see it, Ben. We're so close to making that happen. Do you think he'll walk soon?" Ben replied, full of childlike wonder, "Yes, Mommy. He's getting closer every day." Mia's heart warmed with his innocent hope. The next morning, Mr. Clayton called Mia into his office. Seated in his wheelchair, an envelope lay on the desk. "Mia, you've been more than just an employee to me," he began sincerely. "You've changed my life, and I want to change yours too." He slid the envelope over. Hesitantly, Mia opened it to find a formal contract offering her a permanent position as his personal assistant, with a salary she'd never dreamed of. I don't know what to say," she murmured, tears welling in her eyes. Just sign, Mr. Clayton said kindly. Mia nodded, letting her tears fall. I accept. Thank you, sir. That evening, Mia and Ben finally reunited at the mansion. Mr. Clayton had insisted Ben come by, and to Mia's surprise, he had even prepared a small gift, a professional drawing set. Ben was overjoyed, rushing to hug Mr. Clayton. Thank you, sir. I'm going to draw you walking, he exclaimed. Mr. Clayton chuckled, visibly touched by the boy's enthusiasm. I'll work hard to make that happen. In the weeks that followed, Mr. Clayton dedicated himself even more to his recovery. With Ben's constant presence, the mansion began to feel more like home, and even Nina's smile became brighter with a new energy. Then, during one physical therapy session, the impossible happened. Mr. Clayton took a real step, however brief. Mia watched in awe as, with the help of the parallel bars, he moved one leg forward. You did it, she cried, holding back tears. Mr. Clayton smiled, his eyes shining. This is only the beginning, he said. Months later, the mansion buzzed with celebration. Mr. Clayton hosted a small garden party to mark his recovery and the profound changes in his life. Mia and Ben stood by his side, with Nina beaming from ear to ear. At the end of the event, Mr. Clayton did something unexpected. He took Mia's hand, looked deeply in her eyes, and said, Mia, you brought light into my life when everything was dark. You gave me a reason to believe again. Will you stay by my side, not just as my assistant, but as my wife? Mia was speechless. The tears in her eyes and her beaming smile said it all. Ben ran over, hugging them both tightly. Now we're a real family. A few months later, Mr. Clayton and Mia were married in a simple yet heartfelt ceremony. Ben, with his contagious energy, was the center of attention. Mr. Clayton, now walking with the help of a cane, delivered an emotional speech about resilience and love. The mansion, once a place of tension and loneliness, had transformed into a home filled with life, laughter, and hope. And what about you? What do you think of Mia and Ben's story? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Rate the story from 0 to 10, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to follow more stories like this. And don't forget to check out more heartfelt tales on our channel by clicking here on the end screen.